Hello, Mr. Cooney here with grammar lesson 19, participles and participial phrases. Okay, this is where it gets a little bit more tricky. You've probably dealt with prepositional phrases before, but the next few phrases are going to contain what we call the verbal phrases, which means participles, gerunds, and infinitives. And we call them verbal phrases because they are other things. They are verbs acting like other parts of speech, verb acting like a noun, verb acting like an adjective, and things like that. So this is the first of several of those. Don't worry about remembering that yet. But the first one, participle, is a verb form that acts like an adjective, okay? So it's originally at its root a verb, but in the form of an ing or an ed verb, it actually acts like an adjective. And what does an adjective do? It modifies a noun or a pronoun, of course, right? So the car screeched down the twisting road. Now, something we want to clarify here is that just because every time you see an ed or an ing verb in a sentence doesn't mean it's a participle. Most of the time, it's just a verb being verb, right? Just like you guys might say, oh, that's Mr. Cooney being Mr. Cooney, right? Okay, so that's what the car's doing, right? The car screeched. But twisting, on the other hand, although that is an action in theory, the way it's being used there is to describe the road, right? So that is a participle, okay? It can be present or past, in other words, ending in ing or ed. And then a participle with the complements and modifiers, in other words, the words kind of attached to it, is an actual participial phrase. Okay, it still acts like an adjective. It can be in different parts of the sentence. If it falls at the beginning of the sentence, it's usually followed by a comma, which means it's a good way when you're writing, when we get back to doing a paper, our literary analysis after 1984, that you can start a sentence and avoid using the same subject, say the name of a character over and over again. So screeching loudly, the car pulled into the service station, instead of just saying the car pulled into the service station while it was screeching loudly. I mean, that's fine too. But if you're writing a lot about the car, then this puts something else exciting because it's an action at the beginning of the sentence, which at the same time describes the car, right? Okay, so circle the participle or participial phrase in each sentence. And I believe, okay, there are two different exercises, so we'll do around 2/3, 3/4 of them. Exercise 1, we have 20 items. Let's do 15 of those. Circle the participle or participial phrase in each sentence. All I have to do is find it, okay? Sometimes at the beginning of the sentence, sometimes it's just one word, right? Okay, but remember that, for instance, wanted, that's not a participle. That's just a verb being a verb, right? Okay. Exercise 2, we're going to ask you to find that and then draw an arrow to the noun or pronoun it modifies. So Donato sat at his desk listening to a classmate's oral report. So obviously there is your participial phrase, right? Because the real verb is there, right? That's what he's doing. But this describes him in general in the circumstance, right? It describes Donato. So we draw an arrow over to that. One more together, as I would say in class, which we'll be doing soon. Waiting patiently, Donato organized his notes. There's the real verb, right? But waiting patiently, put on the front of that sentence, describes him, right? Okay, and for those, there's 18 on the sheet here. Let's do 15 of those too. We need some good practice. So 15 and 15, due by Thursday night. As usual, see you soon.